So it is 1 o'clock, and so now I will bring the regular Township Council meeting to order. And the first item, I'd just like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples, and especially recognize our relationship with the Kwantlen, Katzie, Semiahmoo, and Musqueam First Nations. The next item is the adoption of the agenda. I would ask that on adoption that we, my Alexa heard me. Strange technology. Anyways, I'll get back. On the agenda, we have a delegation, which is from the Langley Senior Resource Center, and we'll hear the delegation after we hear the presentation from the Langley Fine Arts Piano Quartet. So that change, I would ask for a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Arneson, second by Councillor Kunst. All those in favor? Opposed? And that carries. Thank you. The next item is the adoption of the minutes for the regular council meeting on November 22nd and the public hearing meeting on November 22nd. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Whitmarsh, and second. I have a seconder. Councillor Kunst. Any errors or omissions? All those in favor? Opposed? And that carries. Thank you. So we now move on to presentations, and the Langley Fine Arts Piano Quartet is here, and I apologize for not being there in person. But there are seats that are reserved for members of council to go into the audience there and take part in the performance. So with this, I will turn it over to Ms. Bauer, because I'm not there, who can organize the quartet. And I want to thank the Langley Fine Arts Piano Quartet for coming on our last public meeting prior to Christmas to provide us with some music to put us into the Christmas spirit. So thank you. Thank you. Ms. Bauer, can you hear me?
Yes, Mayor Froese, I can. Can you
Kim,
hear
can
me?
you hear me?
Mayor Froese, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Jack,
Yeah.
but I can't hear Chambers at all.
Yeah. I think it's cut out somehow. The feed is cut out to us. I'll call them.
Okay, should I sign out and come back in again, maybe? Or just stay put?
We're both getting that. Ms. Bauer, can you hear us?
We can
She
hear
can't
you.
hear us.
Mayor Froese and Councillor Richter, can you hear me now?
I can hear you, Wendy, yes.
Okay,
I can hear you.
Okay, and we have you back. Thank you for your
good.
patience.
Great.
Excellent.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, thank you for that. And I suppose the Langley Fine Arts Piano Quartet has left already, and so they really appreciated listening to the music, but about halfway through it cut out, halfway through the second song. So, but it was really nice to listen to them. So we'll now go to the delegations, and we have the Langley Senior Resource Center delegation. If you could come forward, and I'll turn it over to Ms. Bauer to set it up.
I don't want to.
And when you're ready, sir.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Anthony Kupferschmidt, and I'm the new Executive Director of the Langley Senior Resources Society. It's just an absolute pleasure to be here, and it's a tough act to follow this morning, but bear with me. I wanted to be just really brief today and express our support for the Age and Dementia-Friendly Action Plan that you're going to be hearing a little bit more about this afternoon. Really pleased to be able to strongly encourage Mayor and Council to vote in favor of this plan. I've had the pleasure of observing the Township's Seniors Advisory Committee for the last several months. So I've come in on the tail end of this, but just really appreciate the thoughtful engagement process that's gone in to this. And certainly one of the things that attracted me to coming to work with the Langley Senior Resource Society was the Township's commitment to this new age and dementia-friendly action plan. So as an organization, the Langley Senior Resources Society really does feel that we're well positioned to support and work with the Township and Council to move forward the Age and Dementia-Friendly Action Plan, should it be approved today, both as a direct program and service provider, but also as a convener of older adults across both the city and the Township of Langley. So I will leave it at that because you've got a long agenda ahead of you, but I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity, and we do hope that you will endorse the action plan going forward. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you for coming forward. Thank you. Okay, so now we move on to another presentation from Foundry Langley. So I believe Mr. Lauren Roberts is going to be providing us with the presentation. Please come forward.
Find it. I don't want to touch things.
Nope, I think you just have to,
Don't we want to put the,
yeah.
the presentation up? Thank you. That's what I didn't want to do. Okay. Not yours. Oh, there it is. If you click the enable content, or else it won't play a video.
Ah, thank you. So where am I going?
Just that right here.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you.
Here, here. I need to share. And we need to share the sound. I have learned that part.
Yes, thank you. Perfect.
This should. Come on. There we go.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Well, thank you so much for inviting us to speak to you today about youth mental health and Foundry Langley. I'm Kristen Coyne with Encompass Support Services, and I'm overseeing the development of Foundry Langley. And I'm here with Lauren Roberts today, our Executive Director of Operations at Encompass, Heather Scott, the Executive Director of the Langley Memorial Hospital Foundation, and Christine McCracken, the Executive Director of Programs for Encompass, is here as well. Oh, thank you. So I just wanted to give you a snapshot of youth mental health, and mostly to say that out of all age groups, the youth age group experiences the highest rates of mental health and substance use issues, with 1 in 5 youth aged 15 to 24 reporting these concerns. And the vast majority of mental health concerns and substance use concerns we know start during childhood and adolescence. So this is really an opportunity for us to get involved and try to prevent some lifelong challenges that folks might experience. In particular to BC, we know this is a concern locally as well. So we see two different things. We see higher reported rates of mental health and substance use, as well as higher severity of these concerns over the years. So for example, we've seen a great jump in youth presenting to our emergency rooms in order to seek mental health supports. And specifically for Encompass, we've seen over the last year a 180% increase in incident reports related to suicidality. So we're really seeing that severity coming through locally here. We also know that COVID-19 has had a disproportionate impact on our youth. We've all felt across all ages increases in mental health concerns due to COVID-19. In our youth population specifically, we know we've seen the highest increase in terms of reported rates of anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and behavioral challenges. We know that the overdose rates during the drug epidemic have been highest during COVID, and our youth aged 15 to 24 actually have experienced the highest rates of employment loss due to COVID-19. So we're really seeing a triple threat for our youth at this time. Speaking about our current system, we know that we have a variety of really strong service providers in Langley, and we're happy to have that. But there's two concerns that we're noting. One is that the service providers are really working in silos from one another as separate entities. And the other is just that there's this huge demand and there's a lack of capacity for us to meet that demand. So what does that look like from the youth experience? When a youth finally gets up the courage to reach out and ask for help, then they finally find a resource and they find a phone number or an email and they reach out. We all have these really strict criteria for who we can serve because of that capacity that we have. So what they get is a response that either, as you can see on the graphic, you're too mad to meet criteria, you're too high in whatever that is, or you're not quite mad enough. That applies to all issues. So you have too much anxiety to meet that service or not enough anxiety. So you get another phone call, you make another call. And that happens again and again. And what happens with our youth is that they just stop reaching out. And so they get no support in many cases. And in that time, their issues worsen and they present in our acute services. If you're lucky enough to meet that criteria in the middle, then often you're met with a lengthy wait list. So Foundry Langley is something that we propose as a solution to this in two main ways. The first is that integration of so many of our really strong service providers so that we're bringing service providers together into one space so youth can walk through one door and be able to have us do the work as professionals. They don't have to do all the phone calls. We can come together, meet with the youth, and make sure we're providing the right service. The second is that there's also net new funding for new services, and we've been really careful to identify gaps in service so that we can add to that in that way. And so there's 5 core service areas which we wrap the support around: mental health, substance use, physical health care, primary health and sexual health, as well as social services like homelessness services, employment services, life skills, and our peer support. So the Langley context, we know that there's a rapidly growing population in Langley and that we have a higher percentage of youth in this community than most throughout the province. So we anticipate seeing up to 1,000 unique youth each year walk through the Foundry doors. Foundry is a proven model. There's Foundry centers that exist already, and there's lots of data here, but I'm going to focus you on the last point, which is that 91% of young people who went to a Foundry center either agreed or strongly agreed that they could better manage their current health situation because of Foundry. And another statistic is that when these folks were asked, if Foundry wasn't here, where would you go? A third of those youth responded that they would have gone nowhere. So what will this do for our youth here? We know that when a youth comes to the attention of professionals, we can refer them to lots of places. What's different about this? We know that we can provide more immediate access to support, often the same day, avoiding those lengthy 9 to 18-month wait lists. We know that while we often see youth who could benefit from support, they're not always ready and willing to engage. So Foundry will be able to offer that support to families while we work to engage the young people. We're able to bridge that child and adult system following youth until they're 24. And really, we're able to provide holistic care. So rather than referring to one counselor who can work with the youth on anxiety, another counselor who can work with them on anger, maybe sending them to a doctor for a med review, we can send them one place and provide all of these core service areas to really have holistic care and meet the needs of youth. They won't have to identify what's wrong. They'll just have to identify that they need support. We know the traditional system often doesn't work well for all youth. So once you get into counseling, often you have to sign up for a weekly appointment, let's say Tuesdays at 3 o'clock every single week. That doesn't work for all youth, nor is it needed for all youth. So this is an alternative where youth can come once, get what they need that day. They may come ongoing. They may come back in 3 weeks. They may come back in 2 months, or they may never need to. We know that an alternative to seeing a family doctor where parents, mom, dad, grandma may see, youth might not always feel willing to disclose issues to that same person, and so this provides another option rather than youth not seeking any support, and provides more space to meet with youth for a longer period of time than the traditional 5, 10, or 15-minute medical appointment to really hear what youth need. So ultimately, youth can access one time, ongoing, and they get access to peer support, medical services, and mental health supports as well.
Within our organization, we also have the Langley Youth Resource Center, which is a big reason why Foundry has come to Langley. And so in 2018, we developed the Youth Resource Center in partnership with the Township of Langley, specifically to start that model of providing services under one roof. So what we did in that location was we started to co-locate a lot of services into that location, bring service partners into that location, and start our process to really start engaging the youth and hearing what they needed within our community. Again, the major reason why we got Foundry was because of the great work that's happening in the Youth Resource Center. We were able to demonstrate through that to show the funders that we were able to put a Foundry Center specifically in Langley. The one part that we heard specifically from the youth was that they're very comfortable coming to our spaces. A big part of that is because the youth are the ones who are telling us what they need, when they need it, and how to do it. The Youth Resource Center was a great example of that. Foundry is the same piece. The reason why we're doing Foundry is because the youth told us that they weren't getting enough in our community. Along with that too, they were the ones who both identified the space that we're doing the development at, as well as they're going to help us kind of guide through all the processes through Foundry as well. The biggest difference between the Youth Resource Center and Foundry is that the Youth Resource Center was developed to kind of guide the process for youth and walk alongside them. Foundry is very it's a very integrated service delivery model. It's developed based off of a model that is throughout the province, as Kristen said, and it brings in a lot of net new services. So when we say net new, we're not overlapping what's happening at the Youth Resource Center. The two are going to collaborate very well to help really meet those gaps that we have within our community with our youth. So what does it mean? It means increased hours of operations, more medical and clinical counseling services, specifically what Kristen was saying, drop-in services so that youth can come in the moment to get what they need. Again, the model is different. It's an integrated services, meaning that even more often, youth only have to tell their story once. They don't have to tell it over and over and over and over again. We know that when youth need something, they don't like telling multiple people the same story. So they come tell one person who quite often with the Foundry is going to be a peer. That peer is going to carry their story with them, help them guide and navigate through the services to get what they need. It is a significant service enhancement. We said with the development of the Youth Resource Center, this isn't going to solve all of our issues in Langley. Foundry is not going to solve all our issues in Langley either, but it's going to help us to continue to fill those gaps in our community. This is a huge jump for our community to be able to provide those in-the-moment services and start getting rid of those wait lists.
Thanks, Lauren. Hi, everybody. My name is Heather Scott. I'm the Executive Director of Langley Memorial Hospital Foundation. You might be wondering why the Hospital Foundation is involved in this campaign. And really, it's very simple. Mental health is a health issue. You've seen the numbers. You've seen the increase in demand of services at the acute care level. By the time that young people get to the acute care level, often the impacts are lifelong, changing their lives forever. Foundry is a proven solution. It's working. It's an opportunity to intervene early on in a young person's life, giving them the ability to develop healthy coping strategies and go on to become the people that we all want them to become. So why is a capital campaign necessary? Here you'll see the location of the future site of Foundry Langley at 20618 Eastleigh Crescent. Thanks, Lauren. So the answer is very simple. So let me ask you, how many of you have painted a room in your home? Right? How many of you have, taken out a wall, bought new furniture, gutted your basement, or replaced your kitchen? We all do that to create a space where we feel comfortable, where we feel at home, where we can escape our lives on a day-to-day basis, go home and feel comfortable. Youth are no different. Now imagine you're a young person in your life, or imagine yourself at 13 or 14. Now imagine you've got a mental health challenge such as anxiety. You've managed to muster up the courage to walk and open a door to a space and ask for help. What do you think they need to see when they open that door? We've had a group of young people working on that very question for over a year. And they have developed a space that is unlike any other, and a space that you can't find pre-built. On the floor plan you'll see, I'll work through some of these colors for you. So overall, what you'll see is when a youth opens that door, they're going to find a space where it says they belong, they're welcome, and it's there for them. When they walk inside, they'll find a nourishment station, a place where they can get food, a room to do their laundry, a shower, a place where they can store their belongings safely, a place where they can charge their phones. We'll deal with their physical issues first. While they wait to meet a counselor or a doctor, they can sit independently. There'll be private nooks for those young people who don't want to participate with others, or they can wait as a group together. The space is thoughtfully designed to address their physical needs so they're able to focus on the reason they came to Foundry in the first place. The doctor's exam rooms, you'll see them on the look. I'm a skier, so on the looker's left, you'll see that there are exams. There's 3 medical exam rooms, thoughtfully designed to be non-threatening. The talking rooms are comfortable. There's a room designed specifically for Indigenous youth, respecting their cultural norms of meeting together in a circle. The medical and talking areas are separate from the large spaces where groups of youth come together, such as in the demonstration kitchen on my far right, or the large group areas. Even the staff area on your far left has been ergonomically designed to encourage collaboration and cooperation, which is so important when the services are working together to wrap around young people. The government has provided a grant of $800,000 for the capital renovation. Our $2.1 million campaign is in addition to that commitment. To date, we've raised 60%, with about $850,000 left in the campaign to raise. Foundry is an opportunity to be part of a proven solution, to give our youth the skills and abilities to manage their mental health challenges, giving them the support they need to live to their full potential. And isn't that what we all want for our young people? So I want to thank each of you for considering the motion to give support to this campaign for youth in our community now and in the future. Oh, here. Here it is. Here you can see these are renderings of the future site of Foundry Langley. This is the waiting area and reception area as you walk in. The demonstration kitchen. Another example of a waiting area where groups can wait together. And we have just a video here for you of the Foundry location in Kelowna, where you can get a sense of what another Foundry location looks like. You have to hit play. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. I'll just let you wrap up, or are you done?
All done.
We're done unless you have
Okay.
questions. We saw hands.
Yes, there are a few questions. It looks like all the members of council have a question to ask. So I'll start with Councillor Woodward.
Yeah, thanks for coming today. You know, when I went and toured the facility under construction there, I sold pretty quickly on it. So I'm glad you had a chance to come today and present to council. I'm glad council's open to that presentation. So again, thanks for that additional information. I did learn a little bit more. I did want to ask you again, though, to cover off some of the conversations I've already had, is why did you locate it where you did?
Because the youth and families actually told us to. So kind of a little history of that is our organization had an opportunity to buy that property from a previous landlord who we basically resided in that location for about 15 or 16 years as an organization. We bought it with the purpose of using it for us as an organization. Then when the youth and families basically told us, no, that's the location Foundry needs to go, we moved. So we moved the rest of our organization knowing that that was the right place based off of the feedback from the youth and families.
Okay, great. So did you look at locating it in the township, or what, do you think that the proximity to the township is sufficient for your needs?
Yeah, we did a SWOT analysis to try and figure out a couple of different locations because there was a couple opportunities, but at the end of the day, the youth and families were the ones who basically told us that that was the location. We know with the incoming SkyTrain and pieces like that, transportation is such a huge issue in our community that we knew that that was the right spot just by the language that was being used. We did speak with Township on a couple of occasions, talking about potential opportunities, but once the youth and families, we know as an organization, if the youth and families tell us something, we're gonna follow their lead on that.
And that makes sense. I appreciate that. Just remind me again, what percentage of the youth you think you'll serve at the Foundry location would be located or based in the township?
Probably close to just roughly about 75%.
75. Okay, I'll make a note of that. Thanks. What about the RCMP? Do you have something to add to that? Or?
Yeah, I was just going to say we have a youth advisory that's really guided the process very closely, and a number of them are actually out in Aldergrove. And they still said that's going to be the most accessible spot for them. So they felt like with transit, they would be able to come if they couldn't get a ride from a family member.
Okay, thanks. You think it'll be a significant quantity located in Aldergrove coming down Fraser Highway, which is one of the reasons that location makes sense? Is that okay? Clarify that. Thank you. The RCMP, what level of involvement do you think the RCMP detachment would have in the programming there?
Historically, the RCMP has been very involved with our programs, both not only just sitting down and enjoying a meal with the youth, but also providing, in the moment questions and education and those types of things. Historically, we've had a really good relationship with the RCMP. We know that that's going to continue with this project. It's just, again, another enhancement to what we're currently doing.
So would it be fair to say that the RCMP have a presence at the Foundry and it assists them in their law enforcement efforts?
Yeah, definitely I would
Fair
say
to
that.
say that,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, appreciate that. Thank you very much, and thank you again for coming. And as a heads up to Mayor Froese, I'd like to move the referred motion as soon as the question Q&A is complete. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Councillor Long.
Well, thank you very much for coming. I'm familiar with the Foundry because I participated in the Healthier Community Partnership meetings that we've been having over the last year or so, a couple of them anyway. And when the plans were being put together for the location, I was at that meeting too. So it's a fabulous project, there's no question. And location-wise, yeah, I think it's very close to the hub of the transportation network in the township as much as it is, and the city being close to the Eastlay, being close to the bus station and so forth. I guess the concern, and probably why you're here, and this motion that was referred to this meeting is about where the funding comes from. And of course, it's pretty obvious to say that the provincial government is supposed to be looking after this, and the municipality will chip in where we can with the youth location that we helped you with and got going. Thanks to the last council, there's a tremendous contribution to the efforts. But I'm curious to know what other communities are funded by local taxpayers in terms of this initiative. I looked at the Kelowna one that you referenced and showed us some video on, and I don't see any partnerships from the city or the municipality. So, and I don't want to start an argument here about who has to pay, but are there any other examples where local tax dollars from the municipalities are contributed? And perhaps rather than put you in the spot, I can't seem to find any on the internet. It's a provincial funding, and then you have other partners as well.
Yeah. At this point, I would say that we have a good partnership starting with the city on Foundry. They've put forward a motion in regards to tax exemption on it, for example. Langley does things differently. I guess that's the best answer I can give you, is that the Youth Resource Center is a perfect example of that. It was the community kind of rallying together to put together a project that makes a big impact. And I think this will be very similar. So when it comes to other Foundries having the same, I think we treat our community a little bit different, even with the development of the project. So if another community has that municipal support, it's probably the same kind of area that the city is doing currently. Again, if you look at our municipalities are different. We have 2 municipalities. So for us as an organization, and you talk to youth and families, it's not city or township, it's Langley. Right. So we're just working on that project.
Yeah, do you have any idea what the tax exemption amounts to?
Yeah, it would approximately be $20,000 a year.
$20,000 a year, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to make those comments because when the discussion comes, it's not that I don't support the Foundry, I support it 110%. Where we put our municipal tax dollars is going to be a concern that will come up soon. But thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you. Councillor Whitmarsh.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. And thank you for coming today and speaking to us about this. And I just want to certainly give my appreciation to the work that you do already in the community. And this is a great kind of initiative. I had a number of questions for you around the Foundry, and just so I understand it better. And the first thing I'm wondering about was, we have the Langley Youth Resource Center. I know you talked about it a little bit, about this, the Langley Youth Resource Center helping us to get a Foundry. And I'm not sure what that really means, to get a Foundry. Is that something that we apply to have a Foundry, or we decided to establish our own Foundry? And I'm not really sure exactly the difference between them, the kind of what's the difference between the youth that would go to the Langley Youth Resource Center versus the youth that would go to the Foundry? Do they go to both? Maybe just help me understand the difference there.
Yeah, the difference between the two, so to give you the background on how the Youth Resource Center help us get to a Foundry. Foundry is a very competitive process. So out of 40 different communities that applied during that period of time. You go through not only a round of applications, but also a 2-day interview process with them because it's long-term funding. So this project gives us $700,000 worth of service funding over the next eight to 9 years. So what that does for us, for our community, is that's a significant investment in our community that the government is putting in. So that's the whole reason why the Youth Resource Center was the model. So right now we operate the Youth Resource Center on funding of about $100,000 to $150,000 and can make a big impact with that. So just imagine Foundry on that scope. The services are going to be different because youth who go to the Youth Resource Center can hang out for 1 or 2 or 3 hours and just kind of be. So it is a different model in regards to, what Kristen was mentioning before. It's drop-in counseling, it's seeing drop-in doctors, it's bringing potentially psychiatry and a number of different services into Langley that weren't there before, or they're very scarce before. So it's a big enhancement to that service delivery within our community. And youth probably will go back and forth between the two. We will probably see some youth in different areas. The other part too is that with the location that it's currently in, it's very close to Kwantlen. You would know this with like just test anxiety, those types of things, going up to the age of 25. Students that are going to Kwantlen can come in for that one-time counseling to talk about how to manage their test anxiety, how to manage anxiety, their whatever mental health issues they're having in that moment. So I think that by saying the 1,000 youth that are going to be coming to Foundry, we're concerned we're going to have a hard time keeping up because we're projecting that it's going to be even higher. That 1,000 is probably a very safe number to say.
Right. Okay. So that's helpful to know when you talk that you mentioned in there that there'd be no lineups for people coming in, and yet if we had more than 1,000, I'm just wondering how you would accommodate all those people and how you would not get some form of lineups or waiting times.
That's a big part of why we're asking the Hospital Foundation to raise the funding for us. Actually, is our original ask was even greater than that because we had wanted to try and pay off our mortgage, for example, because out of the mortgage, that's increased service that comes in. Partners like Fraser Health are bringing services into that location that is above and beyond the $700,000. So all of those pieces that start to come in and funnel into that one location, it just starts to really exacerbate what we can do. And I think Foundry has a reputation. It has a reputation of making significant impact. And so when people hear that, they rally behind it. And we've really felt that over this past year in planning as well.
Right. Okay, that's helpful to know. So when a youth comes there, do they come on their own, or do they require some sort of guardian or parental sponsorship or support, or even are parents and guardians made aware that they're visiting, or how does that work?
It's very much case by case based on the needs of our youth and their informed consent based on their capacity. Do they need someone there to support them in making the choices? Do they have capacity to make them on their own? So really the space is created to support youth and their families, however they define families and their supporters. So youth can come with parents, guardians, grandparents. If their friends are their supportive family who they identify with the most, they can come with their friendship group. Or if they really want privacy and confidentiality, they can come on their own, as long as they have demonstrated capacity to consent to whatever services that they're engaging with. They might just be engaging with an educational wellness group, right? So it really depends on what they're accessing and what their age is and what their capacity is. But we try to always work with the unit wherever we can because we know that sustains change the best.
Right. Okay. And just remind me, this is for 10 to 24 or 12?
12 to 24.
12 to 24.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I was interested in your stats early on, and you mentioned on one of the slides, and maybe I misunderstood it, but it said there was 4,000 youth ages 10 to 24. That number seems very low, unless that's meant to be 4,000 youth who are having mental health issues. But I just simply did a little count of the high schools in our area, and we're probably up to about 6,000 just on high school alone. So I'm just wondering what that data point meant.
Those were numbers taken from the most recent Statistic Canada study, and so are likely low, especially given the most recent growth in the township.
Okay. Yeah. Well. Okay. Quick add to me. We've got about probably 10 to 12,000 that fit in there instead of 4. So I thought maybe that was people that were having mental health issues was 4,000, but interesting. Okay, last question for me. I know there's lots of others. Is there a residential component in this or not? No.
No.
No, okay.
No residential component attached to this.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
Thank you very much. I'll keep it real short, maybe just comments. Thanks for coming and thanks for the work that you do and have done in the past. It's really nice to hear the impact that you have, especially when, you say 91% of them strongly agree that they actually can benefit. And they're very comfortable going there. And you listen to, you got to watch some kids want a cathedral, maybe, or some, within reason, but it's good that you really listen because they're the ones that go there. They're the ones that feel comfortable and they're the ones that get impact. So just thank you very much and keep up the good work. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kunst.
Thank you for your presentation. Yeah, I'm excited that the Foundry is coming to Langley. For 10 years, I worked with immigrant youth here in Langley, particularly refugees. And there's definitely gaps in trying to find mental health support. Will Foundry be sort of looking at that and, how will you help serve our immigrant and refugee population?
Yeah, it's definitely something we're looking at and will continue to look at. We look to the experts in our community that provide those services already. And at this moment, they've said that because their space is where those folks tend to be most comfortable, it would be more bridging and them asking what's needed, them telling us what's needed, rather than us trying to locate those services within the Foundry, but us rather supporting to whatever needs they're identifying. How best can we support? Do we need to translate brochures and materials? What is it that's needed? I know we've been reached out to by Spanish-speaking folks who might want to be our family peer support. So it's really just trying to figure out how to put those pieces together in a way that's most effective for the community.
Okay, thank you. Last question. The sites in the city of Langley, will you have like satellite sites maybe in Aldergrove and Walnut Grove for kids at the school? How does that work for kids that are sort of on the outside of the city?
Yeah, I think as an agency, our long-term goal is always kind of that hub and spoke model. Again, to have that location, same way that we do it with the Youth Resource Center, where we have a mobile team that goes out to other communities and those types of things. We also do a Y clinic, which goes out to right now 3 or 4 different schools throughout the Langley School District to provide like medical wellness basically in the schools. So we'll continue to work on enhancing those as well. Foundry is something that, again, just by having the name and the presence and everything else, we feel a lot of love, I guess, from our community partners who will let us free up. So when we talk about net new, we're not going to be overlapping those. We'll just be enhancing other pieces as well. So we'll always have those in the back of our mind in regards to, how do we get youth to Foundry? Mm-hmm. Because a lot of it is, with youth, it's word of mouth. It's their friends went and they like the space, then they're going to come as well.
The trust factor, right?
Yeah. And that's the biggest impact in regards to the space, is that if the space, it's not built so that you're in basically like rows in a waiting room. You're built so that you can come and you can still socialize with friends while you're waiting and do those kinds of things and break out into smaller groups if you're a little bit more concerned about your privacy or uncomfortable, those types of things. But the way that it's developed is, we want it to be a place that youth brag about. And so that's how we're going to get the youth there more often than not.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Ferguson?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for coming, Susan, Kirsten, Lauren. I didn't recognize you again, Lauren, because you got the haircut and, the glasses are gone and everything else. I do appreciate, I walked through your youth hub a few years ago and what you're doing. And I see you folk and your team is like, you guys are the heroes because, what you're doing is so important. And Most people don't know much about my history. I worked outside the school district. I was a school district employee, and we had teams that worked outside, in other words, commercial buildings and things like that, where we taught school to people that had problems. And one of those problems was mental health, substance abuse, and others. And, I've had to take weapons off people. I've had to stop problems. And there's so many different extremes. It could be extreme where somebody just has a violent background and through community involved with crime and stuff. That's one. But another one could be something as simple, and that's not really simple, is that they have a dying family member. Their mother or father had passed away, or they have a sister or brother that's dying of cancer. And we even had one of my students, her sister, through, I guess, the Wish Foundation or something, met Justin Bieber, and flew him down, and he was very, very good. And fortunately, that young girl passed away. But that causes trauma in a family, mental health, and there's different ways of treating it, and there's different ways of doing things. And I appreciate everything your staff is doing, and under COVID and all the other things that exist, it's so important to provide that service. And, it's not sometimes full-time for everybody. It could be temporary. Somebody could just be in need. So it's how you process the I call it the youth to a specific situation. Now, the financial picture, we are not building the Foundry. I just want to make that absolutely clear. We're not the bricks and mortars. That's correct. Did you want to comment on that? Who's building the Foundry? Who's supporting the actual bricks and mortars part?
Yeah.
That's so the public wants to kind of know that.
Yeah, our organization can't build anything.
Right.
When it comes to a building, it comes to a community. So in that specific piece, we have a management company called Caliber who's doing all of the construction management and everything for us in regards to that. When we say that the community helps us build it, it's the community wraps around it and does all the kind of love.
And the major funding envelope is the Langley Memorial Hospital people?
Yeah, so their fundraising is a big piece. I mean, we've been here talking with council many times over the years. We're not the best at fundraising.
So the point I'm making is not the Township of Langley. Right here, our motion is $250,000 over to 22 and 23 budget, funded out of a Rcmp existing reserves. That's simple as that. That's you don't need to know. That's the council stuff. But the point is, I don't want to get confused with we are building a multi-million-dollar building and that we're giving up the land. We're doing ABC. We're not doing that. The request is today for this. And I think it's a very good point, given the fact that the need is so important. We provide ice rinks and soccer fields. We do other things. This is another, I'm not saying we have to do this every single day, every year, but that's another important thing in youth initiatives. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Councillor Richter.
Yes, I'd also like to thank you for the presentation today. I'm glad Councillor Whitmarsh raised the question around the population numbers, because that I twigged on right away. It seems to me that 4,000 number is significantly understated given the range in the age group from 12 or 10 until 24. I did want to ask, within that age range, because it is quite a broad age range, what is the majority of your clients or anticipated clients? What age group are they going to fall into? Are they going to be in the younger stream of things or in the older stream of things or in the middle?
I think the beautiful thing about us is it's going to be unique to Langley. So we don't quite know till it's open, but based on all of the open existing Foundry centers, it's the older. So it's that 15, 16 to early 20s that is accessing the most. With some of the youngers that are kind of struggling earlier on, and then they can stay with us longer as well.
Okay, and now the comment was made, I think, in response to an earlier question with regards to of the 1,000 anticipated clients per year, 75% of them would be township clients. Now, I couldn't help but notice when you were looking or when you were going over the layout diagram that you had things like washing machines in there and showers. it would seem to me that those services would be probably somewhat targeted more towards the homeless youth. Is that correct?
No, not necessarily. We get, like currently in our Youth Resource Center, for example, we have similar resources that are there, and sometimes it's just a family that couldn't pay their bill for their water bill or something like that. So we get use from all types of different walks of life in those areas. And so it just depends on what the need is in the moment. So it's not specific to homeless youth. It's for, again, it's for everybody who walks through those doors. So it just depends on their situation. So it's to meet those in the moment needs, depending on where they're coming from. Because sometimes you get it. I mean, you can have somebody, especially in the torrential rains, a youth is walking 9 times out of 10 to a certain location. I mean, a driver drives past, and you hear it quite often, unfortunately, with youth, where they get splashed by water.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's the first thing? Well, they're going to need laundry, and they're going to need a shower if they're going to access services. So it just limits that barrier in that area as well.
Okay, interesting. I'm somewhat disappointed, I guess, that you weren't given a choice to locate within the township, given that 75% of your clients are going to be township based. But I do understand that this is provincial dollars and the provincial voices dictated the location. What I would like to know, though, is the $250,000 that township could provide to this. This is a capital contribution. What exactly is it going to be spent on?
So in regards to the whole capital contribution, at this point, we're already in construction. And with the dollar amount that Heather has spoken to, I mean, our agency is prepared at this point to be carrying some debt to get this service integrated into our community sooner than later. And so when you talk about the capital contribution, it could be anything from, you know, bricks and mortar to flooring to like specific areas within that location. So there's lots of opportunities. That's what Heather's here for, because that's more the fundraising piece. But at the end of the day, it could just be helping us kind of get rid of that debt that we're going to be carrying at the end of this. We have a very strong board of directors who basically are with us on this. This service needs to come in sooner than later. We're seeing it with our youth and how COVID has exacerbated things with them. It can't come any sooner. So for us as an organization, we can't push pause on this. Not only would it cost us more to push pause and wait for the funds to come, but along with that too, it's something that as an organization, we just know the sooner it gets in, the easier it'll be to help resolving some of those issues with our youth. Also,
okay.
With your point, Kim, so the youth and families told us, we were given options with the township. We were, as an organization, we work really closely with the township, and we were given options within the township. We presented it back to city, or back to our youth and families. They're the ones who chose it, who chose the location just based on where it's at. So we
okay, but I just want to raise the issue. I know you're treating it as one Langley, but it's not. It is 2 Langleys. Yeah. And so this 2.1 million that the Langley Memorial Hospital Foundation is raising, is that going towards the renovations on the building, or is it going to pay down your mortgage on the building? I'm not clear on that.
Yeah, that's going towards the renovations. So along with the projected capital costs on this development, I mean, we're talking upwards to about $2.8 million at the end of the day, after we pay designers and pay our construction management company and pay all the bills at the end of this. We basically set at that point. So if you look at the overall budget that's there, we got $800,000 from the provincial government to start, which is where we're at right now. The dollars that are being fundraised by the hospital foundation helps to pay the rest of the portion. And so with 60% of that, that's how we know that as an organization right now, we're carrying debt walking into this. So that's just where we're at.
So you actually need the 2.1 million now in order to open the doors.
Yeah, kind of. So I guess the best way to say that, Kim, is that, again, our organization is in a position with a local financer to be able to do that. in a comfortable way where we will be carrying some debt, because even through contributions within the hospital foundation, they're over years, those types of things. It's a situation where we know that the service is needed in our community, and we're getting an influx of $7 million worth of services in our community over the next 8 years. I think it's crazy for us not to invest in that. So
Yeah, no, and I agree with you that we do need more services. I'm sorry, my phone's ringing here. Let me go on. Sorry. Okay. But what I'm wanting to make sure is that if we put $250,000 into this, which is basically property tax monies, that we're going to be putting it into the actual building and not into paying down the debt on the building.
yes, it will go into the actual building.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Great, thank you. Well, I'd like to add my comments. Thanks for that presentation. I don't think there's a member in council that you have to sell the Foundry to. I think we're all very supportive of the work that the Foundry will be doing in our community, and the need for it in our community. Certainly don't need to convince me. A couple questions. When is opening day projected to be?
So we're saying spring of next year. And the reason why we're saying that is that we know through our history as well, lots of delays, things like that can happen. So that gives us until June 21st to open. We are projecting to open earlier than that, though. So.
Okay, great. And on the fundraising side, I just want to get some understanding of that. I know in past, donors can donate, and the funds are provided over time. It's a commitment, and then over time. So there'll be a motion coming later that discusses 2 years, but is a 5-year commitment. Do some donors do that, and does that work for you too? Just want to kind of get an idea of how flexible we can be with any potential funding.
Thanks, Mayor Froese. So far we've taken only 2-year pledge payments because the need for Foundry for Encompass is so critical right now. It's not like a Fraser Health kind of initiative where the government has the financial backing, so we can provide 5-10-year sort of pledge payments. This is a local community agency, and so I would say the sooner that funds can be provided, the better for Encompass. Ideally, we would very much like them to not have to carry any debt whatsoever. So the earlier payments, the better. But if the council is so good to make a motion in support of it, we can certainly discuss pledged payment periods. But ideally, it would be sooner than later.
Great, that helps. To clarify. Great, thank you very much. And again, thank you for your presentation. Very thorough. A lot of good questions for council, and we have a really good understanding of what you're doing here. So I'm going to go over to Councillor Woodward.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Froese. So if you're willing to take it, while the item's here on the table, I'd like to move the referred motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's moved by Councillor Woodward, second by Councillor Richter. And Councillor Woodward, do you wish to speak to it?
Yeah, I may as well speak to it. Use up one of my turns for that. I think I've been pretty consistent. I brought this to council after having a chance to attend the original presentation at the convention center and then have a chance to see it in person. So I recognize it might be a bit further along, some members of council. So I really appreciate, again, the presentation here. I'm pretty clear where I stand on it. I think we've got pretty significant accumulation into the Rcmp reserve due to funding Rcmp officers not receiving them due to COVID. So it seems like a perfect sort of one-time thing to participate in a pretty important capital campaign. We spend millions and millions and millions, almost an unlimited amount of money on sports facilities. And so to me, a little bit of money for youth mental health into a capital program seems like an easy one for me. So I obviously support it. I think it's obviously going to be predominantly township youth, Aldergrove, and so on, like you outlined in the presentation. So it's an easy one for me over 2 years. And again, I really appreciate you bringing us up to speed and the education you provided to me as a combination and adding to the youth hub in addition to what we already have in the township, and just a few blocks away will be a Foundry. So again, an easy one for me, and thanks again.
Thank you. Councillor Long.
It's not so easy for me, I'm sorry to say. It's a provincial responsibility. They're putting 800,000 and we're being asked to put $500,000 in. Something doesn't appear to be right there. So it's I thought it said 250, didn't it? Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I didn't mean to. Well, thank you for correcting me, Councilor Woodward. It's $250,000, not $500,000. But anyhow, it's a tough one because we have so much in the way of challenges. We just got denied now any COVID relief from the province in terms of our recreation centers. I'm sure everybody in the township realizes that we're in a real fix with what COVID has done to all our recreation centers. We're going to have to come up with funds to keep them open. We also, I think, the taxpayer is under a tremendous amount of stress, as you know. I just read something that there's be $1,000 more per year for the average family to pay for food on the table. So as much as I really, really do support the Foundry, I think it might be setting even a precedent for municipalities by putting tax dollars in when it's a provincial responsibility very clearly. And I can't find an example of other communities that have done that. So as much as I laud the efforts, I think we can find the money. You said that there's an $800,000 shortfall at the moment, right?
At the moment.
Yeah. So I would hope that the community will come forward with that, and certainly we would help to publicize and try and get the community to step up to the plate through all its generosity that the Langleys are known for. But it's a really challenging ask for me, especially since we just got this letter now from the minister saying that they're not going to be helping us at all with our recreation facility. So we're going to have a real challenge. And there are some on council here that, that we want to be generous with the tax dollars, but on the other hand, it's so many mixed messages. We're trying to keep the budget down, but we keep adding to it. And then finally, the thing that concerns me probably the most is if we got over the fact that somehow we have this money, I'm not sure as we want to take it from the police fund. So I don't know if staff have a comment on that. It sounds good that there's a reserve of money sitting there, but as everybody knows, policing is also a huge challenge for municipalities. So I know that we probably have spent that money many times over. It may be sitting in a reserve currently, but I'm sure it's been pegged for something. So I'm very concerned about a councillor saying that money's up for grabs when I don't really have any idea whether it is or not. So maybe staff could, Your Worship, maybe staff could comment on that. But regardless if they do or not, as much as I support the Foundry, we can help in any which way we can. And I think we've done that by coming up with the youth center. Putting that kind of money of taxpayers' money into the project just doesn't sit right with me, I'm sorry to say.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Whitmarsh.
Thank you, Your Worship. I had just a question through to staff and maybe following up with Councillor Long's discussion just around maybe some information around the reserve itself, where it sits at, and we do have a number of commitments for Rcmp as we move to the future, and just how our reserve fund would cover that, and if there is some availability or excess over and above what's our commitment to Rcmp.
I'll refer that to staff. Just before I do, I will be, once my turn comes, I'm asking for referral to the budget so we can get that kind of information. But if staff can answer that now, that'd be great. So I'll ask staff if they can respond to Councillor Whitmarsh.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll start it off, and then Ms. Ruff can actually try to determine the amount we have outstanding in the reserve at the moment. The RCMP reserve is a non-statutory reserve, meaning it's not something created by provincial rule or regulation. It's something that's been created by council resolution. So council therefore has the discretion to use it as they see fit. In this case, as was been said, the reserve has been building up in part because of some of the challenges we've had in getting members here in as quickly as we would like. The other challenge is it's been, I think, earmarked eventually for a detachment expansion, whether that be by way of the detachment location itself or a newer building. Ms. Ruff, are you able to comment on the balance of the reserve?
We're estimating it to be around 7.4 million.
Okay.
So I guess the follow-up with that was the commitments that we have for future members, and I know some of them we haven't been able to get either due to COVID or other reasons. Do we know what that total would be if we were to all of a sudden be able to hire those additional members, say, today?
We're current with our demands for members in that we budget those each year, so it's only when we are lacking members to fill those spaces do we have the surplus. So as per our past direction, we'll always be funding it, given the number of direct spots or members that are budgeted for or called for by council. So the only other use of the funds would be for if there was an extraordinary matter such as an RCMP collective agreement, which we've taken into account in our operating budget, or through any repairs or expansion of the existing detachment or other municipal operations, locations, or equipment.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. I'll move on to Councillor Arneson.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, and I'm glad that the presenters are still here. I would be remiss not to comment at all about your presentation, saying that I think for me it's an absolute no-brainer that we need this. The only question that comes as arising from this question regarding the funding for me is how will we find the money and where would it come from? So this motion specifically requests that it come from a very specific reserve fund. And so I've saved my comments more or less to the fact that, as the mayor has alluded to, and some councillors may be having a similar inquiry, the degree to which we have not considered what the overall and holistic budget is for this year for RCMP is a big question mark for me. And I appreciate the fact that you would like to come and help me out with this, but it's, I'm afraid it's rather for me an internal discussion. It is a policy discussion, I think, also that needs to be had. If I can just take a step backwards from this, as you're likely aware, we take monies aside on an annual basis and put them towards this fund. It's very prudent to do that because we don't know, and unlike some other communities, unfortunately, who have now discovered that they decided to utilize those monies for other capital expenditures, which were extremely wanted in the community. They had robust discussions and decided to spend that money, and now are in a shortfall for their reserves. And so what I think would be appropriate under the circumstances, and not necessarily any kind of impediment to your plans going forward, is to utilize the discussion period that we have to discover what are the demands on that reserve fund, how much money will it take, perhaps, and what I've considered is our community policing stations have been closed during COVID. There are other ways that we could consider as a council to utilize those monies. And I'm not saying that one should take precedent over the other, because I certainly value the fact that this would be a huge enhancement to our policing to have this integrative approach. I'm very supportive of that, and I know that youth mental health is a huge and growing problem, unfortunately. So, but I see merit in looking at this as an opportunity to satisfy ourselves from a budgetary point of view, how much money we do have left, and look towards the new year after we have more firm budget discussions and make a determination about what funding would be available. And I'm not saying we want to do it incrementally, but, you know, I just think that we need to have that kind of discussion. So I prefer to do that before making a decision today. So I would be supportive of the mayor just deferring this for a short amount of time so we can gain that information. But thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Richter.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm in agreement with Councillor Long about funding provincial initiatives, that I don't think municipalities should be doing that. And I don't think that is the case in this situation, because we're not funding operating costs. We're doing a one-time capital expenditure. And I would like to thank Councillor Woodward for his creative idea in funding this one-time capital expenditure out of our police reserves, because ultimately, if this program gets up and running and is as effective as I suspect it's going to be, that's going to help with proactive policing down the road. Now, we had no problems putting $1 million in capital into a community music school in Langley City. I don't see why we would have any problem putting $250,000 into a mental health facility in Langley City that will service our township population. We know that. We've been given the statistics. 75% of those future clients are going to be Langley Township residents. In terms of the 4.75 million that we have in the reserve right now, I don't see the need to refer this to the budget discussion because there's a very simple question that I'm sure we could get the answer to today. Part of that reserve is going to be needed to pay back pay for the new police union. Is there enough money in the 7.4 million to cover that back pay, and as well as leave some sort of a leftover residual amount that the 250 could be taken out of? And I think our Director of Finance can answer that question today.
Thank you.
I'll pass this on to staff if they're able to, or if they have those numbers.
Thank you. We don't have the final numbers from the RCMP for the cost of the back payment. We've been given some estimates which we have tried to take into account. It will be over $2 million, and there will be some additional costs. We're unsure of them at this point.
Okay, but we've been putting money away for this police union back pay for quite a few years now. So I'm quite confident that we have enough. And if you're saying the number's not firm yet, but it's in the $2 million mark, well, we've got 7.4 million in the fund. I think we can cover the 2 million. So I don't see the need to delay this project. I see the need for this project to move forward as quickly as possible. If it can open this coming spring, I think that's going to be wonderful, wonderful news for the young people in this community. So I'm supportive of moving with it now and paying for this one-time $250,000 out of the police fund because it will help policing down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ferguson.
Yes, thank you. I actually think it's been a very good debate here because, you know, what do we do with our funds? Every year we have the budget deliberations, which we're going through right now. We'll proceed into January, as well as how every line entry is looked at. And I think it's important to note how we look at Park and Rec and how we look at recreation facilities for people of all ages, from cradle to grave. So I think those are all important. It's also important to know where the money does come from. But the one thing, and I compliment Councillor Richter for bringing up the Langley Community Music School. I guess they performed earlier on. They're excellent. I was hoping they'd do another couple of pieces, but we had a meeting to go to. So we actually worked with, we at the township worked with the folks who do the fundraising for that, and there's a lot of matched funding for that. And with the matched funding provided a community opportunity for both the city and township to get involved in something that was very important and was very beneficial to everyone. So that was done, and the same thing with this particular project. They're asking the community, and I will be doing the same thing. I will be supporting, as well as I'll be asking my friends and people in the business community to support it as well, because it's an important initiative. And I would even also say, rather than giving me a campaign donation, if I run again next time, forget about that donation and we give it to the Foundry. I think that's important, and so that I'll be passing that on as well. But the interesting thing is that we're missing here is the fact that youth crime, and it could be caused by mental illness or something, youth crime is something that does occur. And if we can prevent just a little bit of youth crime, that saves policing dollars. And I hate like heck just to preach here, but I love to use examples. When I was teaching, I've told you I used to teach this outside, right? And so we're outside the schools, right? I was in the back of a warehouse somewhere, and the phone rang. And one of the kids says, "Yeesh, you know, a friend of a friend's brother had a bunch of weapons in the back of a car, and they're going to hit a gas station." So I said, "I know you don't want to be phoning the police, but please do that." And that young person did phone the police. They went down, they stopped the guy. He had a good plan, in the gas station. And they stopped them in flight. How much money they saved? Because if they would have gone in with guns blazing to a gas station, that would have been one heck of a mess. And this is the type of thing. Youth crime is out there. And if you can somewhere along the line work with youth to prevent some of that crime, it's going to save all sorts of problems in the future and save policing money and community money. And that's why things like this are important. Not just this, but many things like this are important. So I support it for many reasons. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I'll put my first-time speaker hat on right now, and I do support this. I think this is great. I look to other initiatives that the Township of Langley contributed to in the city of Langley, and Councillor Richter mentioned the music school, also the Gateway of Hope. The Township of Langley, I believe, committed $1 million to the Gateway of Hope. Fortunately, at that time, we had a casino, which was producing about $100,000 a year, and we committed to 10-year $100,000. When the casino did cease its operations, or at least cease the slot machine operations in the location that they're at in the Township of Langley, we lost that revenue. But council was kind enough to support the Gateway of Hope and top it up the last couple of payments with other revenues. So I really appreciate that. There was a huge need at the time. The Gateway of Hope, I recall, I wasn't on council then, but I do recall the discussions that we're having around the community, and something like that was really needed, and it was really needed, and it's still needed, and it's really being used a lot today. I see the Foundry is a similar thing. The Foundry is something that we need for our youth. Our youth are in distress. I think there's a lot of, as we heard such a great presentation, there are many youth that need this. My only concern is I always look at due diligence, and that's the proper place to take this is to the budget. I will honor what council likes to do, but I know we've referred a few things before for lesser reasons, but this is still $250,000 of taxpayers' dollars. And the questions that were asked of our staff, I think when they come to budget, if council does wish to refer this, we get that thorough discussion, and perhaps we can get a more in favor once we hear all of the discussion from staff on the funding and where it's coming from, and you know the contract that we have to pay additional monies to the Rcmp that I know we planned for, but it came in higher than what we planned for. So having those answers, I think, is just doing our due diligence. So I'm in favor. I think this is an initiative. It's a good initiative. It's something that we need. I don't worry about what the city contributes, doesn't contribute. If it was, you know, they have a casino. If we had a casino, I think I'd pay for the $2.1 million right now and write a check, but we don't have a casino. We have to be cautious with our money, but I don't think it means that we're against this. We just need to go through due diligence. So I'll go through the speakers here, and if council wants to just defer to the budget, they're opening in spring. It's a 2-year commitment. This isn't going to put them out at all if we defer this decision a little bit to do our due diligence. So with that, I'll move on to the next first-time speaker. I think Councillor Kunst hasn't spoken yet. So Councillor Kunst.
Yeah, thank you. So I appreciate that we could send this to the budget. I'm going to support it either way, so I'll support it right out of the gate today. But again, if it goes to the budget, that's fine too. I like what Mr. Roberts said about how we do things differently in Langley. So, you know, while this should be maybe supported by or funded by the province and everything else, I know that we have a huge township. We have a growing population, and we have kids that need this support, and so that's where I am today. I'll be supporting it today.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
Thank you. I'm going to support it, but I do like due diligence. It makes us credible, or makes us credible. I think this is a one-time deal, and I absolutely support it. It's the youth. You know, you can't. Hey, they need something. Some really bad things can happen if they don't have somewhere to go. So I totally. The other thing is did I mention partnership? Like it's not like we're going in and running a like Councillor Richter had said, a operation funds. This is a one-time deal. Let's kick this thing and get it in the air. And so I'm going to support it, but I like good on you again. But I think I will. I just so you know, I want to support it. I am going to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Long.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm trying to figure out how we can keep spending the same money over and over again. So that's the challenge I have. The 7 million that's in the reserve, we've kind of gone all around the block on this a little bit by saying that's money put aside because we do have to pay some back wages. But Mr. Backen said right in the beginning that money has been earmarked for capital improvements to the RCMP, which we're going to need. So if we have the 7 million and the 2.4 million perhaps is going to have to go to back wages, so that's going to leave around whatever the number is, 4.8 or 5 or something like that. How much is it going to cost to build the CPO that we're going to need in Willoughby? I mean, that we've already committed that we're going to have to build that, and that's going to be multi-millions of dollars. So let's not fool each other. Money's not sitting around just waiting for some excuse to spend it. It's been more than earmarked. Mr. Backer, maybe you could give us some kind of indication. How much is the CPO going to cost in the Willoughby area for the growing population that we have there and the needs of community policing? So I guess I can support it going to the budget because I think that discussion has to happen. There's no question that this is a wonderful cause. Whether the province should be putting more money out or not, I think that's really where we should be fighting the fight on this one. But if the thing is, you can't just dip into this fund without knowing where that money is now going to have to come from to build the CPO for expanded RCMP services in the Willoughby area and Carvolth area. Mr. Backen, maybe just not. It's going to be many, many millions of dollars to put another RCMP outlet in the Willoughby area and Carvolth area, isn't it?
So maybe I could just kind of, Mr. Backen, if this does go to referral, would staff be able to provide us with that information on where that fund is supposed to go? And maybe we'd have to look for another fund if it was designated.
Certainly, Your Worship, but I can comment briefly. The matter is a bit more complicated because that structure is nearing completion, and it was effectively a leased structure, and as a consequence, the landlord provided a lease allowance, improvement allowance, that we ended up topping up somewhat. So it's not the situation of spending a freestanding building and land. It's a longer-term lease we built into our operating money, where, going by memory, I think our contribution above the leasehold improvements was about $500,000.
Anyway, if the motion comes forward, Your Worship, to get another look at the budget, then we could perhaps find other places to get these funds from. I'll be supporting that.
Thank you. Councillor Woodward?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I actually wanted to follow up on some of these important points to try to avoid having the same debate again at the budget. It sounds to me like we have 5 of us pretty close to supporting it even at the budget. So again, I don't want to debate it all again at the budget. So why not just approve it? Here's, I'll try to help to maybe achieve that. So if I could ask through you, Mr. Mayor, to the staff, the balance given on the current RCMP report was approximately 7.4. Could I get what it was a year ago?
Ms. Ruff's looking that up.
Sorry, my schedule isn't up to date. It looks like it was about the same amount.
Okay, maybe I'll jump in. I'd like to do it this way because, again, I've had some problems with members of council not wanting to hear it from me. I have a file here from December 17, 2020, RCMP building reserve balance 5.29 million. So 5.29 million up to 7.4. So it's gone up substantially. 250,000 would be 3%. I'm proposing 1.5% per year for the next 2 years. I don't know about the rest of us, but I've got 3% of the RCMP reserve for youth mental health capital contribution, especially with the involvement of the RCMP in it. I don't see it as a big precedent, even though there were other precedents that I didn't know about or recall until tonight. You know, I actually just really want the Township of Langley to be a significant contributor, send a strong message to the community to support the Foundry. If other members of council or the LMHF under Ms. Scott's direction want to make it a matching campaign, to, you know, the Township of Langley would match up to 250 for the community, that would be fantastic to see it structured that way, if that would help some members of council. But we pre-approve things all the time. We pre-approve road widenings and DCC expenditures. So I certainly support pre-approving it today, especially given I've counted here, we've got 5 of us pretty close to supporting it regardless. So I hope we don't refer it. I hope we just approve it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I like that comment made by one of my colleagues here right out of the gate. So we've had the same type of discussion today, which is an excellent discussion about how we budget things. I don't know if there's a need to repeat that because we've gone through numbers, we've talked about the process, we've talked about police, we've talked about what's in the reserves, and we've talked about the benefits. And also we talked about the music school as well. So right out of the gate, and it's mentioned the matching would be good because I'll be promoting, I don't know if that's going to be part of the motion, obviously. I'll be promoting and encourage as many people. We'll try to double the match if we can with our colleagues in the community. Anyway, no, I think right out of the gate is the best way to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Whitmarsh.
Yeah, for me, I don't see that the level of support for this will necessarily change from now, or will it change in the spring? I think it's probably, if you support it today, you'll support it in the spring. And I think that, you know, to me, this is a small amount of money compared to the amount that the reserve is going up. I'm certainly prepared to support this today. I think it's also a good time of the year to make an announcement and to let people know this is happening, as opposed to delaying it for another 2 or 3 months of debate and discussion, and we're all going to end up doing the same thing anyways. So I'm ready to move on it today.
Thank you. Councillor Long, you've spoken twice, so unless you wish to make a motion, but you have spoken twice.
Yeah, I'd like to make an amendment to add the matching. I think the matching is a nice thing, and we did that with the music school. So can we word it that maybe Councillor Woodward can come up with some wording that says that we will match up to $250,000, and let's get the community on board.
Match with who? I don't understand.
It's a matching.
There's already
matching donations from the public.
Up to a maximum of 250.
Because there's already, I think they're already over halfway.
Yeah, they're 800,000 short, so this 250 and the 250 from the public would be a matching.
500. Maybe Councillor Woodward. Councillor Long asked you if there was a way that we could make an amendment to add a component to this that would have members of the public match, that we would contribute up to 250. I can't hear you.
There we go. Thanks. I got to get
Oh, there
my
we
mic.
go. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I got to get my
Okay.
mic
Yeah.
turned on.
Sorry, I don't see the red lights.
No, and I was suggesting here in the room that we asked Ms. Scott to outline it. I've seen the LMHF, having been on the board for 5 years. Matching campaigns are up to a maximum of 250, and members of the public can match the township. Do you want to explain that, Ms. Scott?
Thanks, Councillor.
Sure.
Thanks, Mayor Froese. Yes, so we have about $850,000 left in the campaign. And so what we would do to raise the remaining, or up to 500,000 of that, would be to go out to community and ask for donations of up to make up that 250,000, at which point based on process, I assume I would come back and announce to you that we've been successful, and that would then trigger your donation of 250,000 towards the campaign.
I would make that amendment, and not too fussy on the wording. Thanks.
Yeah, I think Councillor Long, you wanted to make the amendment, Councillor Long? You raised it. Councillor Woodward, you want to second it? Okay. So on the amendment, Councillor Whitmarsh, should we speak to the amendment? See your hand. Whitmarsh.
Yeah, I just had just some thoughts on that, and you know, I'm open to doing that. I understand how matching donations work, and they can be very powerful. I guess I want to be sure that we are committed to the 250,000. If they have trouble raising and they only raise 200, I would be concerned that we would then decide that we're only going to give 200. That's concerning to me. And secondly, I don't know at this late stage whether it makes a lot of sense. I'd rather just get the money to them now, as opposed to waiting to see if they can raise, and then we can do a match, and hopefully they get there, and they probably will. But it just seems like a lot of extra burden placed on those who are raising the money, as opposed to just receiving it from us. But I'm happy to go along with whatever council decides.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I would kind of be leery of that also, because what if you don't? Like Councillor Whitmarsh, maybe I should be, can I ask that question? Like, is that, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush? And I just wonder if that's something that maybe shouldn't be, you know, am I offline here? Maybe Mayor Froese, could you maybe see if, maybe clarify,
Sure.
make me feel better about, like,
it's one of those,
yeah.
it's one of those tools that's used in fundraising, and it quite often works. And I don't think there'd be a problem with the Hospital Foundation raising this unless somebody has, but it's a fundraising tool that can be used. And nobody can say for sure if, all of a sudden the donations stop. I don't see it happening, but it's just my comments, my opinion. I don't really have the answer.
Financially, things can happen. No, and I'm just worried that I think you'd be better to have the for sure than, we fell short. So please.
That's fair.
I'm sorry, Mayor Froese. You're not in the room, Mayor Froese.
Okay. So if Ms. Scott wants to provide some more insight, being the professional fundraiser. Not.
Thank you. So certainly my preference is to have a commitment of $250,000. It does make our jobs a little bit easier. Having said that, matching campaigns are in fact very powerful tools that, and in the purest form, the commitment is made after the campaign goes. Very often the commitment is made regardless of whether the matching campaign is fully successful or not. So I'll leave that for your conversation. This is a public forum, so I want to say that, it's in its purest form, having a $250,000 match, and then we go out and secure that $250,000 is the most honest way of doing and transparent way of doing a matching campaign, for sure.
Okay, I trust you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Richter.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Councillor Whitmarsh and Councillor Davis on this. I think this matching thing is just muddying the waters. I think we need to show our good faith and our intentions on helping to get this project moving forward by giving the money today. We just heard the fundraising lady say that she'd rather have the money in her hand today. And I think we should give it to her today, because this is a good project. It's a good initiative, and delaying it for the budget or delaying it for matching is just delaying it. Let's just get on with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Woodward.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if Ms. Scott had a response to that. Did you want to?
Thank you, Councillor Woodward. I just want to mention all donors, certainly at that level, are recognized. And so as part of our recognition, the recognition opportunities for the council, should you choose, would be to have a naming opportunity within the space itself, being recognized for this contribution, or your contribution to the facility, among other recognition benefits. That's the one that lasts in perpetuity as long as the building remains.
Thank you for that. So I'll carry on with my comment. It'd be my preference that this be unanimous, council, given the Foundry split. And if this is something that Councillor Long would like to see as part of the capital contribution, then I agree to it. It's that simple. I mean, it didn't really occur to me, but I would like it to be unanimous. And for me, the matching portion, it's problem wouldn't really normally do this in a public meeting. Anybody could watch it and know we're probably going to give we would give the 250 anyway. Ideally, matching campaigns wouldn't be structured that way, but it's very rare for it not to be done. If it can go to the public as a matching campaign under the Township of Langley's, I think it would be something that would be fantastic to use as a tool to help finish the campaign. But if people don't want to do that, I'm not going to fuss over it, but it would be my goal to see this unanimous, and if that's what Councillor Long wants to see, then I'll agree to it. Thanks.
Great, thanks. Councillor Long?
Appreciate that. I really do think that the council, just take a deep breath for a second. There's $800,000 to go in this campaign. We're pledging $250,000 in matching. So that means if there's another $250 to match, it's a tool that can be used to get us up to the $500,000. So that we got to get to the $800,000 to do the project. So I don't think there's any doubt that the taxpayers are going to put the $250 in. So take my word for that. Well, don't have to take my word for it, but matching campaigns are a powerful tool. It shows our citizens, that we're matching their contribution and their generosity. So, again, as Councillor Woodward has said quite well, we don't want to belabor this. We've been at this for quite a while. You've convinced me. You've turned me right around that we're going to have to support this, and I'm feeling really good about it. And I think the matching thing is just a real bonus, as a good part. But like we've said earlier, this is a public meeting, but we're committing $250,000, and the public's going to step up as well, which is going to get that $800,000. So let's support it. Let's move on and make it unanimous.
Thanks. Okay, we should move on pretty quick. Councillor Ferguson, and then I've got Whitmarsh for a second time. If we can move on to the question, I think it'd be great. Councillor Ferguson, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, really quickly, Ms. Scott, I need you to come to the mic again, if I may.
You have through the mayor, so you do it through the chair, Councillor.
Through the chair to Ms. Scott, I just want to say that this is a new campaign and you're just getting going. So you probably have a list of number of people you're going to be contacting. This is powerful. I like to see unanimous as well. I believe, and also it's 125 I'm not sure how that changes the motion, but I believe that now is the time for all of us as council members, the community, everybody, to get a little bit more motivated and get out to our contacts and say, look, we want you to match this. So that's the case, right? You've got a whole long list of people to contact, right? So I guess you don't have to come to the mic. So I think I'd like to see it unanimous as well. I think this is a great idea, and I believe we'll be able to raise that. Thank you.
Councillor Whitmarsh.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just quickly, I think we should leave it up to Ms. Scott and the fundraisers to decide if this is the best tool for them, rather than council mandating that it has to be a matching program. So I think we should leave it, just make it nice and clean, and they can decide how they'd like to use it.
Okay, thanks. Okay, I'm going to call the question on the amendment, and that's to make this a matching campaign. All those in favor and opposed? Councillor Whitmarsh, Councillor Arneson, Councillor Richter. It carries. Now it's the main motion as amended. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor and opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. That was about $125,000 an hour took us to come up with that. No, congratulations. I think it's a good thing. So we'll move on to the Age and Dementia Friendly Action Plan. And we have a presentation from the project consultant regarding the Age and Dementia Friendly Action Plan. And Councillor Whitmarsh, I think your hand is still up. Let's see if something. Okay.
Yes, I'm fine. Thank you. How much time do I have then? Okay. Everybody stretch.
Welcome here, and thank you. We'll switch gears to something else now.
There we go. Good afternoon, Your Worship and Council. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Miriam Larson. I am a consulting gerontologist, and I've had the privilege of working with the Township of Langley Senior Advisory Committee and the related task force on this project for the past year. I am here to present the draft action plan, hoping for your endorsement for it. I do have background in different municipalities. This will be my 6th dementia-friendly action plan, and the beauty of it is each time it gets more powerful, and each time it becomes more grounded in whichever community it's in. So the township plan is about the township. I do want to acknowledge that all the work to prepare the action plan took place on the traditional and unceded territories of the Katzie, Kwantlen, Matsqui, and Semiahmoo First Nations. I am like so many, in a learning curve on Indigenous matters and issues and governing, and I appreciate the leadership and teaching from people I work with. And I work to give back more than I take. I want to recognize the Council approved the terms of reference for this project on October 7th, 2019, based on the recommendations of the Seniors Advisory Committee. It has been an interesting couple of years. As everybody knows, nobody counted on COVID. but we are here and we are proud of the work that we have done. Next slide. There we go. I will be focused and brief. This is a rough outline of how we're going to go at this. I want to acknowledge that age and dementia-friendly action community building involves all levels of governments, a wide range of service organizations, and diverse community representation. We kept the focus of this project. Whenever it's a municipal project, it's on what the township can do for age and dementia-friendly communities, and keeping it there. We recognize that health and transit and housing, those arms of government, do have their own domains of responsibility. There are intersections, but the focus for this project is on the role of the township. This is the only text-heavy slide. I will not read it to you, but I think it's important that people recognize we have an aging population. It's a global issue. It is a healthy sign. It means that medicine is working. It means that social supports are there when you have people living longer and living better. Age-friendly community building is global. It started with the World Health Organization initiative, where they first published in 2006 and 2007, and municipalities across Canada have been taking it up. We want to support, enable aging with dignity, respect, and independence, and we want to keep people connected with our communities. One of the biggest barriers to this is stigma about aging and stigma about dementia. The many myths are that when we get older and when we have dementia, we are diminished, we are disengaged. That is not true. There is a constancy of self, there's a continuity of involvement that everyone in this room wants to sustain for as long as possible, and that's what this project is about. As we get older, we do not take more from our communities, we continue to contribute. And we continue to have that value. The process for this started well over a year ago. It started back in 2014 with the Township Age-Friendly Strategy. Township was recognized an age-friendly community in 2015. 2017 and 2019, you prepared progress reports. And then the Seniors Advisory Committee looked into exploring dementia-friendly aspects of it and brought in the Alzheimer's Society for their expertise and support and education. This project was funded by UBCM Age-Friendly Community Grant Opportunity, and we hope that those continue. It's important to emphasize the work was driven by the Seniors Advisory Committee and the Project Task Force. The members of the task force included all Seniors Advisory Committees, community members of all ages. I want to say aging population is not just about older, because it is a multi-generational issue, but focusing on it. And there were organizational representatives, and we had the Alzheimer's Society involved from start to finish. The task force met 8 times over the past year, started with research. They planned multiple approaches for engaging the community, recognizing the limitations of COVID, and we made every opportunity we could for the community to have a voice at different times, for staff to have a voice at different times, and for stakeholders to be involved. All in all, we had nearly 250 people participate, and they generated just under 450 recommendations. Now, some of those 450 were the same, and you'll see how we narrowed those down. We started by organizing the recommendations into a draft framework, which we then recirculated to the community members and to staff for more feedback. We refined it, we brought it back to the Seniors Advisory Committee for recommendations, and we kept shaping it that way. So that was the overarching. The community survey was available for a couple of months. We did several stakeholder workshops. We met with different staff groups who have different lenses on parks, on transportation, on infrastructure, and that was the process we went to pull this together. The grounding piece to all the work that we did were these 2 key questions that the task force settled on, which was 1, what could be done to make the community more friendly and inclusive for older adults? And what could be done to make it more friendly and inclusive for people living with dementia? And then the final question was, what could be done to better support unpaid or family caregivers? Unpaid or family caregivers provide the bulk of care for people as we age and people living with dementia, and their voices are extremely critical to this conversation. In other projects I've done, we were able to directly engage with people living with dementia. With COVID, we were unable to do that this time. The caregiver's voice was the one that came through loudly and clearly. And I don't want to state that as a limitation, but more of a recognition of the impact of health issue on the community, which meant their lives were even more limited and even more isolated than they may experience because of the dementia. Every time we talked about the key questions, it came back to what role could the township play? Where does the township come into this conversation? We took those 450 recommendations, clustered them into 5 priorities. Now, prior reports by the township recognized the World Health Organization 8 age-friendly domains. And the more we mashed and worked with the data, what we heard from people for how the township functions, it made more sense to group it in terms of these 5 priorities: civic participation and employment, communication and information, community support and health, places and mobility as opposed to built environment, which a lot of people don't know what that means, so places and mobility made more sense, and social connection and participation. We emphasize that there's partnership to make this happen. There will be partnership with Langley Seniors Resource Center. Thank you for being here, Anthony, as well as other providers, both for-profit and not-for-profit. Everybody has a voice in this. There is involvement with the health authority, with transit, and with housing, but each staying within their own responsibilities and finding the ways to collaborate and work together. There's already a basis, a foundation of strong cross-sector working in the township, and it's just building on what you're already doing really well. I will say that one of the top priorities is communication and information, education about the realities of aging, both what's fabulous about it, what can be challenging, and also about dementia and what it is and what it isn't. Age does not cause dementia, but as we get older, the increase of dementia goes up. That's a function of biology and living longer. So it's important to keep those two together without calling them the same thing. So the recommendations are, we narrowed those 450 into 43 key actions. 16 of them you're already doing. It's about expanding them or building on them, but keeping them going. Another 27 would be considered additional, but they all fit with what you're already doing. There's a tremendous opportunity to build on strengths with the ongoing actions. We consider this a framework. It's not a blueprint. It's a framework to work on. The key strengths that we heard about and the opportunities are for education to reduce stigma, to address myths and misperceptions, mobilizing the strong collaborative relationships that you already have in the township, and the value of community assets. One of the things that I will say I haven't heard in any other municipality I've done this with was the value of your parks and trails and the opportunities in your community that people really, really value. Building on that. That's just one. The draft action plan has more details. We do want to recognize the challenges, and it's not communication and technology. We saw it today at the beginning of this meeting. Imagine an older person for whom technology is new, who may or may not have a 7-year-old to help them figure it out, because 7-year-olds are doing it now. In spite of there is a real digital divide, because of economics and because of lack of access to technology and the learning curves involved. COVID did 2 big things. It showed us what we don't have, and it also showed us what we do have. And it created opportunities to bring in programs and supports, including things on digital literacy and people supporting each other in different ways. And those are the kinds of things we'd like to see continue. We heard about contrasts between rural and urban areas of the township. Again, you cover both ends of the spectrum, and to provide equity in terms of access and support and programming is a challenge in the rural areas. Transportation came up as a key thing. I'm not telling you something you don't already know. I heard it, and I know with the SkyTrain coming in that will help, but it will not solve everything. So transportation is a recognized challenge. The balance between domains of responsibility, where healthcare begins and ends, where transportation begins and ends, and where housing responsibilities begin and end, really recognizing that the township is staying in the township lane. We also recognize it's a growing, changing community. So longtime residents may feel a little bit disoriented when their landmarks are changing, and they want to see ways to keep those connections in place. Ultimately, we do recognize this involves resources. I really appreciated the deep conversation you just had about how to best use public money for the community. And staff capacity and money is always come to the table, but we do want to see what we can do to move forward, building on existing actions, things you're already doing, and bringing the new things in. What does this look like in implementation? It's a 5-year time frame. With regular consideration of priorities and resources. Implementation will involve and require the involvement and support of staff across the township. This isn't just a safety issue. This isn't just a Parks and Recreation issue. It covers multiple departments. But we aim to incorporate the recommended actions into annual work plans and the other strategies, your transportation strategy, your housing strategy, your social sustainability strategy. It tailors in with that. Partnerships will be critical. Organizational leaders, the staff, volunteers, and community, they all play a part in age and dementia-friendly communities. The Seniors Advisory Committee will continue to have a strong voice in what happens with this. In terms of resources, given capacity and demands on people, there are and will be grant opportunities to be accessed, looking for any kind of funding streams that will support this work. And it may mean that you start with actions that require a little lower level of investment, building on existing work that you're doing, and making sure that things do integrate with what you're already doing. For monitoring and reporting, the Community and Policy Planning Department will be responsible for coordination, implementation, monitoring, and reporting. Community partners, again, I'm going to look to Anthony and others, will be engaged to develop ways to measure and share the impact across your community. And there will also be opportunities to create a monitoring dashboard to provide real-time progress updates so people can see what's happening and know what's going on in the community. That's my presentation. I do welcome any questions that people may have.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I do have a couple of questions here. Go to Councillor Ferguson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair and myself and Councillor Arneson, we're co-chairs on the Senior Advisory Committee. And Mary and Ms. Larson, it's the first time I've seen you in public.
In person.
It's my Christmas present this year. Certainly we did this initiative with the Seniors Advisory Committee and a task force of people from the community. And I think what you've done an excellent job here, you and Mr. Ward as well, and his staff. I appreciate everything you've done. And it's a working tool. And I appreciated all the efforts, the fact that your inclusion into getting people involved and asking the right questions, asking for feedback, making it transparent. I think it's something we move forward and we can add to. We also want to work on the initiatives you've said that we could do more of. Other than that, is there something in this thing that you said, this council, one or two things you think that we should really work on yourself? Can you see anything that we should really work on as a council, if I may, through the chair?
Well, I would say start with the council. The Alzheimer's Society has a dementia-friendly program, so we can be educated. They've just launched online free programs for age and dementia-friendly communities. So it's an easy start, is learn everything you can. The resources are readily available. Then share that communication and learning out through the communities. A very effective initiative is just sort of public service things, really, really, really basic, that dementia does not mean people become violent. That dementia does not mean people stop engaging with their communities. That getting older does not mean that people cease to have value and contribution. So I would say start there and build on the parks and recreation assets that you have. Those would be really good places to start.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Arneson.
Yes, thank you very much. I just want to say how much I've appreciated working with you. And I really think that it was so critical that we had the guidance and support of yourself to help to facilitate this discussion, which obviously can be a very challenging discussion. But we also had a very robust and engaged group of a task force, as well as the help and support for the Alzheimer's Society and other stakeholder organizations that joined in. And I do really resonate with the challenge of trying to do it while there was COVID-19. But I really think that despite that, I won't even call it a limitation. It's just a different kind of filter in a way, because as you pointed out, it was the caregivers that really shone through. And they are the ones really that carry a huge burden of looking after individuals in our community. I know as a community, we always support volunteers, but I think sometimes we reflect on the sort of formal volunteers that we understand that are doing things on our behalf. But I couldn't say enough about the people in families that volunteer to look after the members of their family who have whatever infirmity, including dementia. So really appreciate that. For me, I think one of the key considerations of having this lens and this framework is to advance the educational component that we can put forward in the community. And I think for me, one of the things that I started looking into myself when you were saying, oh, well, you know, you can look at things online, etc. One of the great inspirations I saw was an individual who lives with dementia, I think in Vancouver, and his name is Jim. He's an older gentleman.
Jim Mann.
Yeah, and they've sort of created, he's like a, I'll call him an influencer for old people. And I'm an old person myself, so I was quite interested. But he was really, really remarkable in the sense that how he was able, through these little YouTube clips, to normalize his life and the challenges that he has, but to really show that there is a huge amount of value that you can bring to the community despite whatever limitations that you have. You know, him out and about enjoying his life, interacting with people, having a good time. I mean, it was very inspiring. So I hope to continue to live and work in a community where we have that kind of inspirational focus. And we talked a lot earlier tonight about our younger generation and children, and, you know, wanting to make sure that their mental health is taken care of. That's hugely important. But I think, if anything, I've learned from sitting on the Seniors Advisory Committee that we are also, in addition to being a growing young community, we're also a growing age community. So that's the sandwich that we find ourselves in. So I think in terms of facilitating what is necessary, we're building on a really good basis that we have with our age-friendly and also now having dementia-friendly. So I just want to thank you so much for your helpfulness in this, and I really look forward to finding ways to continue to collaborate. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great. Well, thank you, Councillor Arneson. And take it from me, you're not old, okay? Thank you very much for the presentation, and I don't see any further questions. I appreciate the work that you've done, and I really want to thank the committee and the task force that put all their time and effort into this, and certainly a lot of input. So again, thank you.
It was a
Now we'll move on
privilege.
to reports to council, and so we move on to number 1. Now, just a reminder, council, it's now
Mr. Mayor, just there's a motion under this presentation. We need to move that to receive it. I'll move receipt.
Yeah, it's received. Yeah, when we do the agenda, that automatically receives these presentations, so it's already been received.
Okay, thank you.
But there's no action. If there's action, then we'd have a motion. So, all right. So there are quite a few reports. So and it is 3:15. You know, we do have a lot to get through. So just asking that we can move through quickly and questions to the point. Councillor Long, do you think we need a break for 5 minutes? Sorry, hand go up.
Well, it's up to the rest of council, but I know I have to make a visit.
Sure. If we want to make a 5, you know, bearing in mind that we need to get through this agenda, take a 5-minute break, and we'll be back at 3:22.
Mayor Froese, I believe we have quorum now, please.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll reconvene the meeting, and we go to reports to council. Number 1 is the draft community forest management strategy. I see Councillor Whitmarsh, your hand is up. Do you wish to move this?
This to bring it forward to public engagement.
Okay, I've just caught part of it. So you're moving it. Is there a seconder? Yeah. Councillor Kunst, thank you. Councillor Whitmarsh, did you wish to speak to it?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I would like to just make a couple of comments. This draft community forest management strategy has been a significant project for the Tree Protection Advisory Committee, and it has come together in a really great way. I think it's a really nice strategy coming forward. Certainly we want to hear more from the public, but I do want to acknowledge the work done by Diamond Head Consulting, a significant amount of work in putting this together, as well as some of our staff that played crucial roles in this. 2 of them are, at least I can see sitting here, Mr. Jensen and Mr. Chu, who put in significant work into this project. And then, of course, the members of TPAC, Tree Protection Advisory Committee. The community members put a lot of work into this project, asked a lot of very good questions. There was additional meetings that were held to see this happen. And you'll see as you read through the document that probably even currently we might be the leader in Metro Vancouver in terms of tree canopy, and our targets would continue to see us grow the tree canopy in the township of Langley, despite the fact that 75% of the land is ALR, and as well continuing our growth that we have on accommodating people, that we're actually going to see an increase in tree canopy. So this is a tremendous strategy going forward. Obviously, we want to hear from the public, and I think I would encourage all of council to support it, moving to the public to get the public feedback as we go. So thank you for that, and we'll see what the rest of council has to say.
Thank you. Councillor Richter?
Yeah, a couple of questions here, please, Mr. Mayor. The picture in the report on page 14, which shows a sole Douglas fir, is that in Aldergrove?
I don't know. Can staff answer that?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to take a look at page 14. I trust Councillor Arneson, Councillor Richter is referring to the report from the consultant, not the staff report? The actual draft strategy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Page 14.
We do have a member of the Diamond Head consulting team on the Zoom call, Your Worship, so perhaps I can ask them if that in fact is a picture from Aldergrove. Amelia?
It's in our council report on page 14. It's actually on page 0, I guess, of the actual report.
Be a Christmas tree.
Through Your Worship, thank you for the question. We're just tracking down the source of the location. So if you wouldn't mind if I can respond to that question, perhaps after next comments, if that's okay.
Sure.
Sure. Okay. I have another question. With regards to replanting, and does this report make significant provisions to ensure that we follow up on replanting? And the reason I'm asking this is because where I live, out in the Salmon River uplands, there was a 1-acre parcel that just 2 weeks ago had 46 mature conifer trees removed. My understanding is, basically they stripped the lot. My understanding is they paid $4,600 in permit fees, and they're required to replant 46 trees. So my question is, they had a reason for removing 46 trees. How are we going to ensure that they put 46 trees back in and leave them there?
Perhaps staff could answer this.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll take a stab, and as Councillor Whitmarsh referenced, we have Mr. Chu and Mr. Jensen with us, as well as the consultant who's looking at the response to the first question. Your Worship, the plan is, in fact, to increase the tree canopy, as the targets indicate. How we can do that is through, I guess, two avenues, two general approaches. In terms of the public areas, we obviously have a more direct role to play, or a more impactful, I guess, way to address that, and we plan to do that through increase of tree replanting in the road allowances as well as public parks and open spaces. As far as private property is concerned, we have, I guess, a more indirect approach, which is to provide incentives to work with the property owners and other stakeholders in terms of public education and providing for tree replacement in that way, as well as other development-related bylaws and instruments. Mr. Jensen, Mr. Chu, Amelia, anything to add? That's it, Your Worship. I don't see any other comments.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I just want to make the point that 46 large tree canopy were removed off one single property in a week. And there's no development application. They just simply paid $4,600 and 46 trees are gone. But they are required to replant 46 trees. I just want to make sure that they do replant 46 trees.
Yeah, I think
yes. Sorry, Your Worship. Yeah. The answer is yes, they will. And as Council is aware, the tree protection bylaw that was adopted by Council based on the feedback from the Tree Protection Advisory Committee was updated recently to make it stronger bylaw. And in fact, that is something that is going to be used going forward.
Okay, so going back to my first question, if that
Betty
was
Gilbert.
taken in Aldergrove?
I think it's by Betty Gilbert, isn't it? That's what it looks like to me, by Betty
Okay.
Gilbert Middle School.
Then the reason I'm asking this question is this supposed to be a poster child of good tree canopy or bad tree canopy? Because there did used to be a forest there, and that forest was removed. There's one single tree left standing. I don't think that's good practice. So maybe this picture, maybe the picture in this report needs a label that identifies whether it's good or bad practice. And I think the label should be bad practice. Thank you.
At least it survived. It's happy. It's up there.
Well, I don't know.
The rest are unhappy.
Yeah, the rest are gone.
Yeah.
And nothing's been replanted.
Yeah. Councillor Arneson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I saw that picture, Councillor Richter, and I thought to myself, maybe that picture shouldn't be there, but it's a qualifier, I think, as how far we've come historically in the Township of Langley to know that there were instances where things like that happened, and we're moving forward from those. But basically, my comments today are more of a laudatory nature. I really want to thank Mr. Chu and Mr. Jensen in particular for their hard work in coordinating Councillor Whitmarsh and myself, as well as the task force working towards this very important report. This is something we've never had in the Township of Langley before, and it's very much integrated with a number of other policies that we are putting forward. So I think that it's really important to look at this in the sense of it is a baseline. It's a sense of a snapshot of where we are. It's really critical to know, based on what scientific information that we have, what's available to the township, and how we can build on that. So I think it's really important in terms of tree management, tree biology, environment, and climate change and adaptation. And I was very appreciative of all the feedback that came back from our very devoted committee who's got expertise in a number of those areas. So it was really a very substantive discussion, and one that required, in fact, more hours of participation than we originally participated or anticipated. We had an extra meeting actually because it was deemed that we didn't want to have a draft document that we felt could be more robust or more detailed, and before we sent it out to the community for engagement. So I once again want to thank everybody, and I look forward to Council's endorsement of this draft strategy going to the consultation phase. I feel like also it's very critical as we do to look at what the community feedback is on any of our policies, because we want to be able to reflect that sense of this is a community document, so we want to be able to integrate that information into this. And I think the projected timeline, if I'm not incorrect, is sometime early in the new year of 2020. It'll be coming back for Council's final review in 2022. That almost rhymes. So thank you.
you. All right, I see no further questions. I'll call the question. All those in favor and opposed? That carries unanimously. So thank you very much for the report. And we move on to number 2. It's environmental improvements on municipal lands policy. Can I have someone move the report? Councillor Richter, do you wish to move the report?
Nope.
Well, Councillor Davis moves it. Is there a seconder? Is Councillor Long? Councillor Richter, do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, I have some questions pertaining to the report and also the policy. My first question deals with the report on page 1, where it says occasionally environmental regulatory requirements associated cannot be achieved on site. I'd like a definition of occasionally. Is this going to be like occasionally? Does that mean once every 5 years, once a year, once a month? Like what does occasionally mean? And where I'm going with this is I'm concerned that by adopting this policy, we're going to increase how frequent occasionally is.
Mr. Seffi?
Thank you, Your Worship. So I guess if I could take a moment to respond to that question, Your Worship, because I guess the question could be interpreted in one of 2 ways. How frequently do these situations come up? These situations being streamside protection measures being necessary on private property, and the other part of it is how frequently does a landowner, a developer, require off-site compensation areas? So it's 2 parts, if you will, and the first response, I guess, relates or follows up with the second part, and I guess what I can say is that we have hundreds, if not thousands, of miles of watercourses in the township of Langley. Within the 25% developing areas, you can anticipate from time to time. If it helps, I guess I can say it's less than 25%. I guess just a rough number off the top of my head in terms of looking at our geosource map where creeks occur. It's actually about 30%, maybe more of around that area of 30% of properties that are affected by watercourses. In terms of then, if it's 30% of properties that are actually have a development potential, then the question would be how many of those are not able to address their environmental compensation needs on site and require for alternative options or solutions elsewhere. And I would suggest that it's about maybe 10% of those that occur. And this policy is really not going to encourage more or less of those things. It's just at council's discretion. It's important to note that this has a 2-step process, if you will. One is at the staff level, at the highest level, the municipal administrator is required to opine and provide opinion as to whether something makes sense to occur on municipal property or not. And if that is the case, then appropriate compensation is based on the evaluation that's done by an appraiser. And if that is to be, I guess, accepted by the private property owner, then it has to go through a development permit process subject to council's approval.
Okay, well, I guess what I'm thinking we need to get a handle on is 10% too much? Because we have in front of us for the public hearing tonight, a letter from the Yorkson watershed talking about a stream that has been reconstructed in a very poor, unfish-friendly manner. And I don't want to see things like that happening in the township because it just ends up backfiring on us and we have to go in and fix it after the fact. So my questions relative to the actual policy are on page 6 of the report. Number 4.2 says that environmental improvements may be considered on municipal lands where township does not anticipate needing the lands to meet environmental regulatory requirements. Okay, what does that mean? Because that's not clear to me. It's saying we're going to consider it on lands that we don't anticipate needing?
So, Your Worship, yes, I'll take another stab at this, Your Worship. The the intent is twofold. One is to increase or improve or enhance the environmental capability, the environmental output of parcels of land that are owned by the Township of Langley. That is one intent. And then the second part of it is, or the accessory part of that is to generate some revenue while we do that, because to otherwise do it would not be legal. So in the first part, then, in terms of,
is the wording is not clear.
I'm trying to clarify that, Your Worship. The intent then would be to find locations where we have no intent, when the Township of Langley feels that the existing situation is adequate. However, there's always room for improvement by planting trees, by increasing the habitat value, by providing fish-friendly culverts, by increasing, as I said, the vegetation. So those things would not ordinarily happen unless we have a proposal that then requires or allows for a private property owner to increase the value of their property. And what we're saying is, let's have a win-win, if you will, solution where somebody's private property is improved as well as the Township of Langley's public areas through this policy.
I just want to go back to the wording of this particular section. The way it's worded doesn't make sense. And I think it doesn't make sense because it should read, does not anticipate needing the lands for municipal capital and/or operational projects. The part in the middle, it says to meet environmental regulatory requirements. It's conflicting. Anyway, I raised that. I think that particular section needs clarification. On 4.5, the last sentence in 4.5, the DP will be registered on the proponent's property regardless of any environmental habitats being located on the property. Okay, what exactly does this mean? And further, will this whole 4.5, if it's kicked in and used, will it come back to council as a flagged item in the DP?
Your Worship, if I may then, I didn't see your consent to
Please.
respond, but I will.
Yes, please.
So in terms of the original question from Council Richter, certainly staff can make it more clear based on Council's direction, and we appreciate any clarification that may be needed. We will certainly be glad to incorporate that. As far as the development permit process is concerned, we typically require Council's approval for development permits on streamside protection areas, and this is just confirming that, and it's going a step further and saying not only is a development permit needed, but it will be actually be registered on title such that it's then kept in perpetuity, and there are no misunderstandings or misconceptions as to what that area is for if the property should change ownership.
Okay, but all right, so if this is going to happen, will it be flagged when the DP comes to council for approval?
Yes.
So council's attention is drawn to it.
It will be part of the staff report, yes.
Okay, well, part of the staff report and flagged in the staff
yes.
report are two different things, right?
Well,
What I'm saying
it's
is
in
it
the
needs
report.
to be emphasized. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Arneson.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you, through your Worship, to Mr. Saifi. I have 3 questions. So generally, I'm supportive of the principles here, but I do have, after reading the report, some questions. And you may have answered the first one. I'm trying to get a sense of how it is what we are equating, what the trade-off is. So the economic value to a developer who's not able to do what they want on their site, then somehow, to me, has to have an economic value to what it is we are allowing to happen on our lands. I know we want to have it happen on our lands, but what is sort of the quid pro quo? Is that the assessment value of what a consultant would say that is worth, is my question.
Mr. Safi.
Thank you, Your Worship. If I can draw Council's attention to item 4.8, and under which, Your Worship, we have in essence, I'm paraphrasing, the higher of two appraised values. One is an increase that is, I guess, extended by the virtue of this policy to the private property owner, or the decrease in value that might be, I guess, arguably extended to or applied to the municipal property. So the higher of those two values would then be what would be required as part of the policy to be paid to the township by the developer.
Okay, that, yeah, I understand that. It's a bit amorphous because to me, there's a magnitude of what it is that we're willing to accept. And I understand assessments are assessments. I guess they're supposed to be scientifically validated and make sure that we have the right end of the stick in terms of the economic proposition.
Councillor
yeah.
Anderson, sorry, just, you mentioned assessment. It is not assessment, it's appraised value, which is different from assessment.
Okay.
So it has to be appraised by a professional appraiser. And we typically take a look and make sure that our property management department is comfortable with the numbers, and if not, there has to be a second appraiser and a third appraiser to make sure that there is an averaging and there's no, I guess, you know, the numbers are what they actually are in terms of an appraised value.
Okay, well, thank you for that, but that doesn't bring up another point, because I've noticed in the past, appraisals, as you're suggesting, can have quite a range, and it's usually based on the highest and best use. So I don't know how one could consider the highest and best use. I can see it on the developed property, but not necessarily on the township property when you're comparing those two.
And that is why the policy is drafted to be the higher of. And typically it would be the first one, I would suggest, and not the second.
Okay, I have another question. So the next question is, so this policy, because it does talk about potentially riparian areas, is there any involvement with the DFO or the province? Through your worship to Mr. Safi?
Safi?
Your worship, not directly through this policy. This policy is taking off, if you will, from an existing legislation or an existing requirement. It just says if there is a requirement to offset or provide for streamside setback protection areas. So that is the fundamental, I guess, premise of this policy. It doesn't create in itself any requirement. It just says if there's a requirement by other agencies, whether it's the Township of Langley or whether it's the province or whether it's the federal government requirements to protect a certain area or to provide compensation for removal or affecting a certain area that is protected under provincial or federal legislation, then there's an option that, subject to the processes I outlined earlier, a developer is able to deal with those requirements.
Okay, so then by default, what we're going to rely on is the qualified environmental professional that the consultant has. Is that done in conjunction then with working with staff in terms of our expectations?
That is correct. Again, not directly related to the policy. That is part of what happens despite this policy. This policy just provides for an option of dealing with those requirements that happen as part of our involvement and discussions with qualified professionals. Correct, yes.
Okay, and my last question is, I wondered if you could foresee, for example, this policy being used for areas where we wish to reduce the incidences of flooding, making wetlands and things like that. Is that something that would be part of the umbrella of this policy? Because I don't know what an itemized list would be of what kind of projects we would be using this for, but I see that that might have some utility.
Thank you again, Your Worship, through you to Councillor Arneson. This, as was discussed at the previous opportunities that staff had in discussing this item with Council, as I recall back in, I think it was May, that the idea was presented. This is something that happens in other municipalities. So what we're trying to do is provide options that we see there's a value in providing in two ways: environmental and financial, I guess, improvements or enhancements. So that's really what we are trying to achieve. And if in fact, I mean, I can't anticipate a case that we may improve flood protection areas or enhance flood protection areas, but that's just, you know, the limitations of my imagination. Certainly, it doesn't preclude. The policy does not preclude such a possibility. There are conditions, as I said. It has to be, as an example, the improvements must be within the same watershed. Otherwise, it just won't make any sense. If somebody does something that affects a stream in say, you know, Salmon River, then it would not be possible for them to compensate for that in Yorkshire as part of the Yorkshire watershed. So that's a fundamental requirement. And then there's other technical requirements that must be met, and that's why we have qualified professionals involved. And once everything is taken care of and looked after, then this policy might kick in, again, subject to the processes outlined earlier.
Well, thank you. I just saw a lot of merit of looking at this in our climate action mitigation, because there are a lot of things that we're going to need to consider doing that we don't currently do, and this would allow us some latitude to be able to undertake probably some of those projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Woodward.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I have a question through to staff, if I may, as well. Could I get try to simplify this? Could I get a real-world practical example of where this policy is required?
Safi?
A real-world example, Your Worship, I don't have a specific example in mind, but if I can perhaps draw a picture for council, a visual, that would be, say, a 1 acre parcel that is encumbered with a watercourse and is entitled, based on the OCP designation, to, say, 22 UPA. Obviously, the watercourse that is encumbering, it's going through the middle of the property, would not make it possible for the proponent to achieve the 22 units that they would otherwise be hoping to achieve. So what they might come to us with would then be a scenario that, as I said, doesn't happen very frequently, but they would say, okay, I can set aside 30% of the property and keep 70% by relocating the watercourse from the middle of the property to the edge of the property. That in itself would require a process that involves qualified environmental professionals. And in some cases, depending on the severity or the intensity, I should say, of the proposal, what they might come to us with would then be, that's weird, I just heard myself sounding really awful. So what would happen then, Your Worship, as I said, the process would require QEPs to confirm to us why it would make sense to relocate the creek, the watercourse, to the edge of the property, and then depending on the severity or intensity, it would trigger a need for either provincial or federal approvals. Assuming that is done, there may be, I guess, a desire by the proponent, because he would say, look, I can't even achieve 15, let alone 22 units on the property, even with the relocation. What if I do additional improvements somewhere else and I can gain, say, 1 or 2 or 3 units, whatever the case may be? Again, I don't have any specifics in mind. I'm just trying to outline a scenario that has happened in the past. So then the process would be, as I outlined earlier, the internal staff process, subject to the council approval through a DP process. Then the appraisal will kick in and say, okay, you're gaining 3 units. If the Township of Langley agrees to allow you to do the compensations on a nearby park, a nearby watercourse, a nearby stream side that the Township staff is aware of needing improvements, then the value of those 3 units would then kick in to assess what the appraised value would be as far as the compensation is concerned.
Yeah, so I was a bit confused by the wording in the policy as well. In certain places, it switches back and forth between financial compensation and environmental works compensations, but it's anticipated that any financial compensation goes towards environmental upgrades. Is that true?
The environmental, the financial compensation for environmental improvements can be expended at council's direction on any matter. Obviously, they are being collected for the purpose of improving environmental areas, but council, it will not be in a reserve account. It will be up to council to decide as to how they might be expended.
Okay, so, all right, so, because it's not clear, because it sounded to me like it was in the policy document, it's intended to be upgrading environmental properties of the township as opposed to money collecting in an account that can then be spent however we want. So I'm just curious if it's which is it?
It's both, Councillor Woodward. It's
Okay.
both. So we'll do the environmental improvements and we collect funding, revenues,
Okay.
contributions.
Okay. And there's no current example you can give of somebody who requires this policy in order to proceed with development?
No, I can't think of any at this point. I mean, there are some examples, I'm sure, but I don't have anything specific in mind to share with council.
So it's coming out of thin air? I'm just curious where it
It's
came
not.
from.
It's coming from the experience of other municipalities and what developers have told us, Councillor Woodward.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ferguson.
I think that's, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think some of my questions have been answered, and it's important. This is an important thing, you know, as we talk about climate change and not just flooding, but the fire systems. And you know, we're a member of a province and a community and a regional district that we have to work with many of these, and a country, many of these things together. I do sit on the Metro Vancouver Drainage Committee, so I know a number of their initiatives are dealing with, the last thing they want is stormwater in their sewage system. So that's something that they're addressing, and there's many ways of addressing that through the development and non-development community, is pipe sizes, direction of water flows, working with older infrastructure and the like, and that's important. It's ongoing. I don't know if Councillor Woodward was looking. This is an example, but it's in my example came to my mind. Is I was walking around and driving around as other members of council were as well during the flooding and the environmental river, or they called it, and I noticed some broken pipes in some areas on a hill, and had, if I may, through the chair to the staff, if we look at different sizing of drainage pipes and different, is that another way that can be addressed in this type of report, if I may, through the chair?
Mr. Steffi?
Your Worship, typically drainage pipes, unless you are looking at, I guess, in the rural areas, I think in the context, as I understood it, in the context of the question from Councillor Ferguson, it doesn't sound like something that may be applicable in the case of this particular policy, but certainly in the rural areas, yes, improvements that may help with a conveyance of runoff would be eligible for this application of this policy.
Okay, so that kind of half helps. I mean, I guess this is an interesting policy. I know that people are looking at initiatives we could take, cleaning ditches, cleaning drainage areas, drainage basins, or what do they call it, basins, whatever they call it, the whole list of things that can be done. You know, it's just, you know, making sure that water courses are clear from garbage and other things. Are any of those measures still in this report, or is it something in another report, if I may?
Again, Your Worship, not directly affected by this policy.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Okay, I don't see any further questions. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? And opposed?
Opposed.
Councillor Richter and Councillor Arneson opposed. It carries. I'm now going to ask Mr. Backen. I'm just going to note that we do have a guest waiting. Mr. Backen, perhaps should we move into closed for a bit and come back? How would we do that?
That probably would be prudent, Your Worship. Just to clarify, we had scheduled our closed meeting. We anticipated around 4 p.m. So as council members refer to their closed agenda, they'll note there was a presentation or so from a third party. That third party is now waiting, so it would be prudent to adjourn this meeting to have the closed meeting and then return after that presentation.
Okay. So I would now ask for motion to resolve into close for that one item. Which item is it, Ms. Bauer? So we have it on record on the. It's a D1?
It's D1, sir, yes.
D1, okay. So to resolve into close for D1. Who has moved it? That's Councillor Davis, second by Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Woodward, do you have a question on the?
Yeah, just is there some way we can, like, the person can just wait, like that used to be the case? I guess at special closing, it wasn't the case before, but.
It's up to council. So.
Yeah, okay, I'll just, no, I don't support doing this. Let's carry on.
Okay.
And special close will be when special closes be based on the council calendar. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed?
Opposed.
Councillor Woodward opposed. Okay, so we will now resolve into special close for the one item. And I'll await the clerk. So I think what do you need? About 5 minutes or a couple minutes?
Yeah. 5 minutes will do, sir. Thank you.